Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of AzUpdate on this Friday, May the 6th. Mr. Claus, you look
I,
like
I,
a jack o' you know, boom. What's going on?
well, I'm only 1/3 of my way through my coffee this morning
Oh, that's
because it's
right.
an early start for us on the
It's an
West Coast. But for this show, it's worth having an early start
That's
because
right.
I love this show. I love doing it. But on top of all that, I swear I was on Patch and Switch because you're wearing my shirt. What are you doing, man? That's later. That's at 9 o'clock.
It's
My time.
Friday. It's Friday. It's a fortnight. I gotta pay homage
There you
to the
go.
man who
Well,
taught me everything I know about podcasting.
there you go. Well, I hope you find him. Whoever that mysterious man is, because I was trying to work all the strange ghosts and goblins and junk out of my setup because I'm in my new office in the new house right now. I'm not set up. I just rapidly got set up yesterday in time for the show for today, and like literally I'm using my backup camera here as opposed to over here. My lights are focused as if I'm using it over here. It's all discombobulated. So I think today's show is going to be a lot of fun.
You
I
think
mean this
so?
one, not patch and switch. I mean this one.
This one. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I think it is going to be a lot of fun. Actually, though, the PGs or product groups, because
Mhm.
we love our acronyms,
Oh yeah.
have gone really
T-
tight-lipped the last
TLAs and
couple of weeks.
FLAs, my friend.
Say that again.
TLAs and FLAs, three-letter
TLAs and
acronyms,
FLAs.
four-letter acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in case you don't know, this is the ramp up to build season. So we're in the month of May. The build environment is currently being built. And they generally tend to hold off a lot of the news until after build launches, because then they use the announcements inside of build environment.
That's
So
right.
I'm assuming that the pickings were pretty slim today.
The pickings were extremely slim this week
Mhm.
in terms of how many actual announcements, and I typically try to stay away from preview because I want to make sure that the announcements are something that you can actually use in
Right.
production, unless it's really kind of like really cool. Then I say, okay, it's in preview, but
Mhm.
start looking at it. So yeah, fairly slim pickings, but there are some people on tech communities that have released put some articles this week that are very interesting, and open the door for fixing some actual issues. So I
Nice.
picked a couple of those.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know I saw some we were supposed to be talking about and did my reading and my research on them. So looking forward to them. Shall we get started and share some of these?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
So
man.
why don't you go
I,
first?
now, I would say, I'm assuming you have shared desktops. You're ready to go off and show the article because I know I didn't set that up. There we go.
There
There
we
we go. So the first one from Tech Community is from the Core Identity and Security blog area and community that's out there, and specifically talking about passwordless RDP with Windows Hello for Business. So I'm a huge fan of Windows Hello for Business. The device I'm using supports it right here with this funky little camera, and it's absolutely awesome to be able to go off and to use, and can be part of your passwordless strategy, nice and easy to deploy out on your environment. But this particular one is basically a very nice setup and a walkthrough of how to establish using Windows Hello for Business using an RDP connection to get into different places. It can be a bit complicated with regards to the setup involved for it with the official documentation. They link off to what that all happens to be.
Yep.
But the idea behind this is this gives you the best way to do it with the RDP environment as well as with remote administrative console experience as well. Pretty cool,
Yeah.
man.
So basically, anytime there's a pop-up that says, "Hey, put in your credentials,"
Right.
you can use LO. And I'm looking at my own environment here in this house because I've
Mhm.
got a few machines under the desk there that I've pillaged and duct taped together from
Right.
missing
Various
the
different
the, the
times.
misfit parts, which is my lab because I have to simulate on-prem
Mhm.
when I do a lot of my stuff. and I have to remote into it, and I'd love to be able to just look at the camera, because I got my Brio that's right next to my actual camera for Microsoft Hello.
Right.
So what if I could just like RDP and then boop, and I'm in? That would be so wonderful.
Right. But like I'm scrolling through the document there. I just want to call out, obviously, the prerequisites you got to worry about is you have to have a hybrid joined Windows 10/Windows 11 machine that you're going to be using for this particular setup. You have to go ahead and have PKI involved with a modified certificate template. And you also have to have GPO configured for dual enrollment. And then finally also have both a standard level user and a high privilege user that has been synchronized with Azure AD that you'll be using for this particular environment for that setup. And then again, like we don't have time to go through everything in here, but Paul does a really good job of basically breaking down each of the individual steps, the PowerShell you got to run, the configuration with certificates, that sort of stuff. Good screenshots that happens to be in there, and then an example of how that all works. But you basically are able to go off, as I'll quote from his conclusion. Using this method, we have achieved passwordless multi-factor authentication for RDP and remote administrative tools.
Yep.
The MFA is something that we have in the device where the certificates are stored, and the something that we know, which is the PIN used to unlock those keys. So It meets the requirements for what password is like. A couple of good comments in there, people asking some questions about it too. Go check out that article. Now, you already did the blog post for this, right? Where you list them all off and links and stuff like that. So go check out the blog post associated with this episode and take a look at that if it's something that you want to go off and set up.
Yeah, and if you're, it's either on itopstalk.com, which takes you right to the blog, or aka.ms/AzUpdate will take you to the latest episode.
Right.
All right.
What's up, man? What's next?
What's next? What's next is that we can now automatically rotate keys and generated in Key Vault.
Now, I would say this is probably the second most common issue that comes up amongst IT pros and operations folks, and everybody that works in IT. The first one being it's always DNS. The second one is being that there's been some kind of a key that expires.
Either a key that expires or a key that was leaked.
Yes, one or the other. And you need to repeal it. And so,
like if you're using, for example, storage accounts, and you've got the key, the secondary key, because I never give the primary key to anyone, but the secondary key, for example, if you've put it into a configuration of a script somewhere to connect and dump some data into it, and that gets leaked, now you have to manually rotate it. Well, if it was in Key Vault, your script would have to go and get it every time it runs. And if it rotates on its own, what happens if it gets leaked? It'll get rotated. So this is now generally available. It was in preview for a while.
Right.
So you have to set up a policy for how the automated key rotation actually works. The information is all in docs on configure auto rotation key. It also comes with a policy for expiry, which I have not mentioned in the article, but now you can expire keys that are linked to your environment. Plus, if you have, for example, like encryption or stuff like that, you have to pay particular attention to when you rotate your keys so that you don't end up locking files that are already encrypted with the old key.
Got it.
You got to think about that.
Not bad at all. My puppy just walked past. She was not impressed with the auto key rotation feature, so she's decided to leave the studio, and she's now going back to her bed in the hallway.
Well, it's also early, so we're probably kind of.
She's like, "Why is this guy talking? Why the lights on in this office?"
That's right.
You got it.
Yeah, so we've got actually comments from Facebook. We're now streaming on Facebook as well.
The books of face, the metaverse.
The metaverse.
2D style.
Speaking of which, maybe we should do a test and run the next AZ update in a metaverse somewhere. I got my new VR headset.
Right on, man. We can try something like that out sometime.
Yeah. All right, so next article that we have is...
This next one is so easy. I can do this.
You can do that one?
I can do this one.
All right, I'll let you do that one.
However, it is in public preview. And
Yes, but it's so
you
cool.
say we don't do public preview, but sometimes when there's not enough to talk about, we do it in public preview because we need to have articles, right?
Yeah, but this one, considering I was at the PowerShell Summit last week.
Okay. You take it. You were just there.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I insist.
Oh, okay.
You were just at the summit. You were talking with a bunch of folks.
We're talking
And
about a bunch of folks.
this
We
came up.
we had a discussion with even the product group on maybe some of the issues that we have with PowerShell code fragmentation. And when I mean code fragmentation, I mean you have because mostly everybody on this list. So I'm talking about Paul and Andrew and our Facebook user, which for some reason in our interface just comes up as Facebook user, and Jared and everybody else and Anthony. We all have these like USB keys with a whole bunch of scripts.
Do people really still have those?
Well, I've migrated to a GitHub repo, but I'm sure some people. It's an analogy.
Okay. I'll let you run with it.
But we all have like our repos of scripts, and some are written for Windows PowerShell 5.1. Some are written for PowerShell 6, and some 7, and now 7.2. And if you're running it locally, you're running it with this version. If you're running it in Azure, you're using Azure PowerShell. If you're running it in a function, it's like we're getting to the point where they're starting to get fragmentation in the versions of PowerShell that we use in those scripts, and some will behave differently. So you have to be really careful as to where you run your stuff and which version you're running it. And actually, Jared says he does. Anthony says I still use a 3.5 floppy. Actually, I use a zip drive.
I'm a 5 1/4, man. 5 1/4 with the plastic notch you cut yourself. The whole.
That's right. Yeah, we've been around. I got key cards somewhere.
Anyway, back to the article.
So now, the PowerShell functions team is working really, really hard to keep up with the releases of PowerShell, because PowerShell now being open source, the releases are coming more frequently. And so the functions team is working to keep up with that pace so that we can avoid at least having that fragmentation where if you are using PowerShell Core or PowerShell 7, because we don't call it Core anymore, we can always try to be at the latest stable release, which is currently 7.2. So that's really cool, especially since I'm got a whole bunch of demos for a couple presentations that I'm building on using Azure Function and PowerShell. So that makes my life easier.
Yeah. Not bad. Not bad at all, my friend. We're talking passwords next.
We are talking about password again next.
Now, I will freely admit I am a huge fan of password managers. I've been getting password managers up and running with my family. For the most part, almost everybody's using them. My wife still prefers to have a limited number of passwords. She has not fully embraced the ecosystem. But at least if I'm setting the passwords for the different accounts inside our password manager that we use, she knows how to be able to pull it up and do it, and be able to get that strong password.
And I would add to that having gone through a death in the family in the last year, when we tried to, as executors, tried to get over some of the accounts that they were using, because they were the person that passed was the person that paid the bills for like Enbridge for gas, electricity, and stuff like that. With Password Manager, in some cases, you can have shared vaults,
right,
and have those passwords. So we've set that up at home as well. But
so that's what we're talking about in this particular space is an additional functionality added to Microsoft Authenticator. Now, again, also as corporate users at Microsoft, we have Authenticator on a crap ton of stuff as a way that we implement multi-factor authentication, and be able to go off and have proof that you're logging into different resources online and stuff like that. So I'm very, very familiar with Microsoft Authenticator. Even third-party websites that need to have like tokens generated and stuff like that, I'll use Microsoft Authenticator as well. And it's been extending its functionality more and more. But This particular one, we've got an MVP that's off and written up an article about how to use Microsoft Authenticator to generate strong random passwords for you. And they go through. Actually, no, sorry, it's not MVP. It's a product manager on the Authenticator team. It's kind of strange that they would have someone introduce a product manager. Hello, let me get you over to Rajat, who's going to talk about this. But either way, you can use time-based passwords. You can use push authentication, all that sort of stuff. That's all part of the Authenticator, but they basically added the functionality of now having a random password generated. So on your mobile device, pull up the website you're working with, and go ahead and fill out the details when you have to go off and build an individual password through a user ID or password prompt. And then they walk you through how to go and do a autofill or synchronization of those passwords from your Microsoft account. So obviously, it only works with Microsoft accounts, which is the consumer versions of the accounts. It does not work with enterprise level or your work accounts, if you will, and allows you to go off and store those randomly generated passwords. It recognizes the website is being asked for, just like another password manager would, and allows you to autofill those. And obviously, you have to select and have autofill enabled for your particular device in question, be it iOS or Android, to be able to go off and make it work. It's great. It's there. It's free, and it is individual for a single user. It's not shareable amongst the family like you and I were talking about before. That's more functionality for an advanced capability. I'm not going to bother plugging one or the other, but just start using password managers, please. This is a great step if you don't have one. If you are looking for one with more functionality, there's a bunch out there in the market that's transcend different things. And as you mentioned, it's definitely worthwhile getting everybody involved and using them early. Like, the best part is, my son, as an example, he swears by his password generator. Like, he doesn't know what any of his passwords are anymore. He doesn't care. He just, new website, goes in, makes a new user ID, random password gets generated that's super strong and long, and then gets stored in his environment. So it's good. It's good to get them young.
I have the same issue. If you asked me to log into my corp account right now with my password, I wouldn't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like 24 characters, like really complicated. I generated once, I logged in once, I turned on passwordless. I was not powerless. I was passwordless.
Oh, and I did something I normally don't do. I read the comments. And someone actually asked, I think Neil Palooza asked, any plans for shared passwords for a small business or family situation? And Rajat, doing the good thing that PM should be doing, is following up in those comments. And he says the team is working on shared passwords for family scenarios. Look at that. Not bad, my friend. Pretty cool.
Not bad. And there's an extension for Chrome. I couldn't find one in the Edge native store, but you can use the Chrome extension on Edge because it's still Chromium.
Yeah, it's Chromium as the engine, so you can do that.
So you could have it on your machine, synced up to your phone, using your Microsoft account to store all your passwords.
Nice. Pretty cool,
man. How
much
much money are we going to save in the year by not having to buy a third-party product?
Well, I don't know. The big thing for me is going to be that it's eventually, this is one step closer towards our original story at the very beginning, going passwordless. And so that's ultimately where I want to get. I want to get to the point where it's like, look, it's something I've got, something I know, and it's not a password, and it's just follows me around wherever that happens to be.
Oh, Jared says that it's built into Edge.
Nice.
Cool. I'm going to have to look into that. Oh, VM profiles.
So what else is coming up in the community? Because we're done our news articles because they're pretty light this week. The next section is talking about community type events and what's going on. I bet you have something about Microsoft Build, right?
I don't, but I should.
Well, pull up the registration page because I'll talk about Microsoft Build as you get there. Some goodness from the build side of things. First of all, congratulations. I know you made the preview reel with your outtakes of doing Welcome to Microsoft Build. Get ready for it, for that little video that's right there. So that's kind of cool. Go to mybuild.microsoft.com. And I'm not letting the cat out of the bag, I don't think, but let's just say that Next week, some very important information that everyone likes to look at will be available online. I can't say what it is, but generally it helps you plan out your couple of days of build is all I'm going to say. That sort of stuff comes up next week. In order for you to participate, you are going to want to go off and register at mybuild@microsoft.com. We're doing a whole bunch of new stuff this year. I can also share that we have been working hard to try to get more technical content into Microsoft Build in a variety of ways. And as with anything, we iterate and try to make better, take feedback, iterate and try to make better. So give Build a shot, see where it's at. I know it's still primarily for the developer audience, but there is stuff in there for infrastructure and operations folks as well. Personally, I love watching the announcements coming out of the Satya level, the first day keynotes. That's where I get a lot of stuff as far as value is concerned for things. But there's a large amount of things going on. There's some Learn Live sessions that are going to be in there, which are kind of cool. I know our team is signed up to be able to do one of those at least, if not two of those. And there's always a whole bunch of opportunities for the connection zone to go off and to have Ask the Experts with different product teams and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that's going on. The question I always get asked is, when are we going to be in person again? And the answer I always give, I have no clue.
I had my first in person last week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was the PowerShell Summit, right?
PowerShell Summit. It was so wonderful. And I'm not going to be as heavily involved in Build this year because I am not preoccupied, but pre-engaged somewhere else. If we have any French Canadian speaking right now that are listening to us, May 24th to 26th, I will be in Quebec City, la ville reine dans notre belle province de Québec.
Cette site web s'était construit dans les 1975, quelque chose comme ça.
No, it's their shtick is they wanted to look vintage this year.
I guess it's
but it's Web à Québec or Web in Quebec. It's in and
all it's missing is the under construction with the guy going like this with the pickaxe.
I really like the little hamburger here for the menu.
The hamburger menu. Oh, nice.
Because typically we have the 3 lines and we call that the hamburger.
So you're presenting in Quebec. That's cool, man.
I'm going to be presenting in Quebec. I guess they were looking for a French Canadian presenter for represent Microsoft, and all the other ones were involved with Build. So they went to the bottom of the barrel and got me.
Nice. Yeah, Build's 24th, 26th. And the Quebec Web à Québec 22 is taking place as well. Are they going to be recorded? Are they going to be streamed online?
Unknown at this point. We're still kind of. I'm still discussing with the organizers exactly how this thing is going to go, but apparently they're looking at 800 people in person. So, very cool. And there might be some of the breakouts, I believe, are hybrid.
Oh yeah.
But it's more on the React, Vue, TypeScript, JavaScript part of the equation, which is really weird to see me there.
Yeah, no, I believe that the coming year is going to be very much a test with a variety of different types of engagement, being hybrid and or in person and that sort of stuff. We can never go back to the in-person only kind of stuff because everyone's looking for the online type of access to things in some way, shape, or form. And likewise as well, the in-person stuff, we try to accommodate that sort of thing. So I think 2022/2023 is going to start to open up a bunch of different possibilities as we start to wrangle with how to handle in-person stuff. Like I had an in-person meeting last week that was like a 3-day workshopping leadership team meeting with a bunch of people. We literally spent the first hour of the meeting figuring out how to present in the same room with people. How do you ask questions? How do you make sure you're including the people that are online and remote? Do you run your camera locally? Do you turn off your camera? It literally took us the first hour to just kind of work out the semantics of what we're supposed to do.
So you mean at the boardroom table, you can't hit the little button to raise your virtual hand?
Well, so
or you actually what we came up
with was the conference room camera was the main camera that we used so we could see everything. Each of us had to join Teams, because it's Teams, obviously, and then we muted our speaker and muted our microphones. But we turned cameras on, so you would at least see the persons in the people in the room. And yes, you could use your raise hand stuff. And then we designated a different person every chunk of time to be the chat moderator to make sure that people were respecting the hands up and were respecting the chat on the side. We pull stuff up. We managed to work it out. It worked out well.
Very, very inclusive. I like
trying
that.
to be, because it's like, why do you need to go in person to stuff?
Yeah. We spent the first half hour at the summit just trying to figure out how we shake hands in the world. Was it
the awkward?
It was the elbow, the bump, the hand.
Did you do foot tap?
I haven't done the foot tap.
Yeah, I actually just try to break the ice when I'm meeting people in person for the first time in a long time. I'm like, okay, are you a hugger, a handshaker, or a bumper?
That's a good
thing. They choose. It's on them. That's how I work.
And we have one more community event coming out very, very, very shortly.
Okay, what's that? Oh, that's a hilarious graphic that does not render well.
Yes.
The Patch and Switch show is back after a couple of fortnights, actually, because of scheduling and other things going on. We managed to get both Joey and myself and Jared all coordinated in our internal chat to be able to say we're going to do a show. So we're going to have a show coming up in about an hour and a half or so. I might nap in between the shows, so don't tell anyone. So we'll see what's going on. So join us on twitch.tv/patch and switch coming up. But we still have the Learn module of the week. And I'm going to put you on the spot because I didn't see which one it was. Do you have one?
I do. I do.
Okay. And we need to actually pump the Learn modules, because this is also not just about news. It's about learning something new that you can take with you on your journey of learning with Microsoft Learn. Which one did you pull up, out of curiosity?
I actually went a little bit of a different route this week because I didn't pick a Learn module. I picked a learning path, which has a bunch of modules on how Microsoft is using multi-factor authentication as part of cybersecurity.
Nice. So this is a 2 hour and 17-minute, if you read every single word and did every single piece of the lab. It looks like it's summary and other ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
The first one is securing Active Directory with MFA.
Right.
Second one is understanding MFA identity management on Microsoft 365, and the third one is to implement and manage that hybrid identity.
Right. So we have the ability as Microsoft, and even other people can make them as well. If you have a Learn profile, you can make your own learning paths to be able to save them and share them with friends and family and stuff like that. I just want to call this one out. I mean, this one here is quite cool because it's obviously tied to our multi-factor story we talked about at the very, very beginning. But an example of pulling them together from interesting resources across the board, our good other bald friend in the team, Oren Thomas, created a desktop support learning path that doesn't exist. He literally made one as a collection and pulled in modules just as if you were doing an exam for managing and working with Windows 10 and Windows 11 in an enterprise environment. I don't know if you can pull that one up easy enough. Pull up on Twitter his tweets, and I will continue to
continue the ramble, and I'll find it.
Just to kind of see that it exists. If you just look for Oren Thomas, nothing fancy, you weed out and look in between the different posts about his sci-fi models and pictures that he shares. But it was created a little while ago, and it actually was a blog post also on itopstock.com, if that's easier for you to find.
Is that the one on? Oh yeah, that's the one. Yes,
came out earlier in the week, but on itopstock.com.
The free training for Windows Client Desktop support.
Just pull up that URL. People can see it online on the screen share as we sign out the show. Free training for Windows Client Desktop installation, support, and troubleshooting. So he literally went through the different content on Microsoft Learn to create this equivalent learning path. Thank you very much for copying that URL, and we'll be putting that inside the blog post. You can take a look at it later as an optional one, because people need to go off and remember how to use and work and manage desktops and once in a while too.
We still do that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's wrap it up, my friend. We're at time.
We are at time, and I know that you have to go and have another coffee, and so do I.
Have a nap. and then
have a
coffee.
nap. Have a nap. I'm
Yeah.
going to go for a coffee and try to find some contacts in the house. Thank you very much, Mr. Claus, for joining me this morning. A pleasure as always, and we'll be sure to watch you in an hour and a half. And for all of you at home watching this,
can you see that?
The breweries are calling. Yes. Well, maybe it's a little early for us.
Yeah. Later.
Maybe. Anyway, for all of you at home, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.